And so one of the things they did, for example, to see if they could, because nobody could figure out what was going on. So William Welch from Johns Hopkins, he was a pathologist, but he was suited up for World War I as an Army colonel, I think. And he was at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. And he and a team came down to Fort Riley, Kansas. Why they called it the Spanish flu, no one knows, because, well, I know it's a distraction. It makes you think it has some reality, but it really started at Fort Riley, Kansas. And these guys went down there and they did autopsies on the dead guys. And their comments were, we can't figure out what's killing them. It looks like bacterial pneumonia, but we've never seen bacterial pneumonia act like this. Mm. And then 100 years later, some researchers looked at I think they were Chinese researchers. They pulled those pathology blocks that Welch and those guys had done. They looked at them again using modern techniques and modern stains and things and actually, I guess, genetic stuff. I don't remember all the things, but they said, we use modern virology techniques, if you want to believe in virology. And they said, we can't figure out what caused the death. It looks like bacterial pneumonia. Yeah. So nobody could figure it out. And they did this study. They took 108 so-called volunteers. They were actually Navy guys that were in the brig. And they got their sentence commuted. So maybe not quite so voluntary. But in any case, they were demographically the same as the people dying in the hospitals. And in Boston, which, by the way, if you look at a picture of Boston at that time, there are telegram lines everywhere. I mean, Boston was the quickest, biggest city to be just massively electrified or electromagnetic fields electrified, with telegram lines. So it kind of makes sense that would be the third biggest city hit with this problem. They go into the public health hospital and they get these volunteers and they tell them to do this. They said, look, we don't want you to touch anything. Do not touch anything in the hospital. But what we want you to do is we're going to assign you to a sick person that's dying of this disease. And when they breathe out, we want you to put their face right down there. When they breathe out, we want you to breathe in. 108 volunteers did that. 0 got infected. 0 got the disease. So then they said, well, okay. And then they swabbed the dying person's nose and oral pharynx, and they put it in that volunteers, and none of them got it. And the gutsiest thing they did was they actually took the nasal pharyngeal washings of these dying people. They made it into a slurry, and this is without the age of antibiotics, and they injected it into these guys, and nothing happened. Horses were getting sick back then, but they couldn't transfer it with a feed bag. You see, because it's an electromagnetic disease. That's what it is. The reason that they used to call it telegraphers' disease. When they first laid down the telegram lines, the people that were getting sick were underneath the telegram lines. So the engineers, the brakemen, and the telegram operators. Anybody who was working along those lines in those buildings under the telegram lines were starting to get sick. And it didn't kill you, but it gave you a little cough. It seems to irritate the linings of your lung. It kind of, makes you a little jittery and you just don't feel good. People were not. There was actually a telegram operators walkout in, I think, Toronto, someplace in Canada, where they were upset because they wanted to, better working conditions, and this was one reason. Well, anyway, so that was called telegraphers' disease. And how did they fix it? And again, this is another bit of proof that it's actually electromagnetic. Is what they did was they just took a twist in the copper wire, and that broke up the coherent field. See, so that's just a little physics twist. They just took a twist, it broke up the field, and the people were not as damaged. So we are electromagnetic beings, and that's what's going on here.